even though we're in an empty room.
This is a big boss. This is another boss. This man's in production. And this guy helped sell it on to Shenzhen.
We're just in the middle of our interview with the man from the village, and he's so nervous. We're asking quite simple questions right now, but he's really nervous to talk about what goes on in the village, the families who live there, and the drug industry in general. We have to keep stopping the interview to kind of give him time to collect himself, so we're just on one of those little breaks right now. Eventually, he begins to open up.
There were three major families who run the Guildford drug trade. After the drug-making technique came in, the first family really worked together on it, and the drug profits were really high. One family taught another how to do it.
But Guildford's success became its downfall. How easy is it to move a drug-making lab? If you have to move one, how quickly can you do it?
1 hour. In the past, when the labs were smaller, it took just 1 hour. But the more drugs that were made, the bigger they got. It was all too much. So the labs couldn't be moved in an hour anymore. The raid was a big surprise. All the telephones stopped working in the village because the signals had been jammed. People in nearby villages tried to warn people in Guildford, but the calls couldn't go through. When the villagers found out, some tried throwing the drugs into the sea. They did throw away a lot, but there were just too many drugs. They couldn't get rid of them all.
But ultimately, the raid did little to dent drug operations in and around Guildford.
Drug prices are still dropping because lots of drugs like meth are becoming easier and easier to make. There are too many people who know how to make drugs, so the prices are really low.
Those low prices are a real problem for those who are trying to get young people to stop taking ketamine. At the drug rehabilitation clinic, karaoke music is a constant. The clinic has set up a mini karaoke room with heavy velvet curtains covering the windows and a plasticky sofa. It's a tame version of the clubs where so many of the patients first encountered ketamine. Here, music is meant as a diversion. A young man sways to the music, dramatically clutching his microphone. One word from you and I was intoxicated, he sings. I never expected this. I'm holding back my tears. Xiao Zhang, the patient with his hair styled into a mohawk, meets me in a hallway near the karaoke room. He's feeling upbeat.
I've changed so much in the past few weeks. I never used to get up at 7 and go to sleep at 9. I never used to eat breakfast before. Even if I make one small step, that is still progress. Life is long. I can take my time. I am still young. Each small step is a small step forward.
In a few weeks, Xiao Zhang's hoping to leave. He's anxious to get out in the world again. The job's waiting for him at his uncle's restaurant in Beijing.
When I leave, I want to start again, both for myself and my parents. I need to change my environment. I need a new place to live. I need to stay away from my old friends, even break the connection completely.
He stops at the end of the hallway and looks outside, hooking his fingers around the metal bars covering the window. He's smiling. Xiao Zhang may have a chance of beating ketamine, but China as a whole is struggling, and it's exporting its problem abroad. Thousands of trucks snake their way into the entrance of the Wunjindu port. It's one of several crossings in the narrow border between mainland China and Hong Kong, a gateway to the rest of the world. This border is very important. It's where 60% of the world's illicit ketamine seizures take place, according to the United Nations. You can really see the challenge that customs officials face. In just the few short minutes I've been standing here, there really has been no let-up in the number of container trucks that have been flowing into the port area. I can't imagine the job it must be to search all of these trucks for illicit narcotics. China is so worried about ketamine that it pushed for the drug to become an internationally controlled narcotic at the United Nations this year. Others objected. They say ketamine's a useful anesthetic in very poor countries. The petition was shelved until next year. By that time, China's problem with illicit ketamine might have spread even further beyond its borders. A cheap Chinese product with heavy consequences for those who can't give it up.
China's Ketamine Fortress was presented by Celia Hatton and produced in London by John Murphy. And next week's Crossing Continents comes from Cuba, where change is in the air. Coming next, the first in a new series, Dr. Yanina Ramirez is joined by Professor Griselda Pollock and Dr. Karen Serre for a detailed look at Edouard Manet's masterpiece, A Bar at the Folies Bergère. Decoding the Masterworks is next, after Christopher Harding has looked ahead to tomorrow evening.
From submissive women to masochistic men, from Asia's automaton butchers and slavers to the grim groupthink of today's overworked citizens. If you've watched, listened or read about Japan here in the UK, fears and fantasies like these are probably hidden away somewhere in your heart. Join me, Christopher Harding, on Saturday night at 8 for Archive on 4, Misunderstanding Japan, to find out why and what it might be saying about you.
Now on BBC Radio 4, Decoding the Masterworks, a new series in which art historian Dr. Yanina Ramirez examines famous and familiar works of art in minute detail. In the process, she reveals the wealth of content and context that ensures these pieces endure beyond their era. Today's painting is Edouard Manet's A Bar at the Folies Bergère.
It's late on a Parisian evening in 1882. The newly opened Folies Bergère is busy. Here up on the first floor gallery, the mirrored bars are dazzling, with lights for the trapeze performers flying above the main auditorium. Make your way through the jostling crowd, some watching the show, many others chatting, drinking, and being seen. And you find one of the newly permitted female bartenders is free. You think you've caught her eye amidst the frivolity going on around her. Or have you? She certainly caught your attention, even though she's not really looking at you. It's those eyes. And those eyes belong to the girl at the bar of the Folies Bergère, here on one of the walls in the Courtauld Gallery in the heart of London. And you can find it by typing the title of the painting into your internet search engine. Type in Bar at the Folies Bergère. Even if you can't get to your computer or tablet at the moment, you probably know this image. It's ubiquitous. You find it on biscuit tins, t-shirts, posters. And the things that strike you about this painting are the fact that the woman is arranged there alongside all the other things that are for sale. Champagne, wine, beer, little mandarins in a crystal bowl. In the background you can see the busy hubbub of the Café Concert, people watching the entertainment of a trapeze artist whose little legs pop out of the top of the frame in the left-hand corner. It's an instantly appealing image, but in this series I want to examine this picture and other ones like it in minute detail and try to, if you like, decode it, understand why it's been elevated to the status of a masterpiece and why it rewards viewing again and again. Joining me in the Wilson room with the fountains lapping outside at Somerset House are Dr. Karen Serre, the curator of paintings here at the Courtauld Gallery, and Professor Griselda Pollock, Professor of the Social and Critical Histories of Art at the University of Leeds. Griselda, it really is the eyes that are all important here.
The question of the gaze takes us to, is she actually looking at us, or is she just looking down, or is she lost in thought, or is this just utter boredom where there's absolutely nothing? If you listen to advertisements now, you have this notion of a buffer face, when the face no longer is expressing anything but gazing at something. But this seems to be full of a certain kind of pathos of a